Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Sean, Ring of Doom, how are you? I think it's me and you at the moment. Or maybe not. It is Friday. You have found yourself at the Toy Armada live. And we're going to talk some odds and ends today. Hello, Telos. Is it Arche? Am I saying that right? My eyes are not so good on the little fonts that I have my options here. Wind Charger, how are you? How is everybody doing on this Friday? We are preparing for a storm here up in New England. I'm sure a lot of the country already has one. El Kevo, how are you? You found yourself on the Toy Armada Live. My name is Aaron Archer. I am a 30-year veteran of the toy game. Mostly worked at Hasbro Kenner and worked on G.I. Joe, Batman, Transformers, Star Wars Ep1, a lot of different things. And I created the Unicron trilogy largely with a few of my friends, Eric Siebenahler and the good people at Takara. So on Friday Lives, we usually just talk about toys and things that go behind the world of toys that you may not have privy to, having not been on the inside. So we don't talk about the details of the toys, but why things happen the way they happen, or potentially why things might happen the way they happen. And I hope to bring some clarity to that kind of stuff. If you're new, welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Dun, dun, dun. Let's see if everything is coming through the way it should be. Everybody hear me fine? Daniel and I recorded a new long form today. I think it might be maybe an hour long. Another feature on two particular characters. So I won't spill the beans quite yet, but fun discussion for sure. Definitely an insight into the part of the toy industry that we don't always talk about. So the painting from last Friday was epic. Which one? I know I sent out the side swipe, but the planet painting, is that what you're talking about, Wind Charger? For some reason I'm not getting my feed through my YouTube whatnots here. Oh, there we go. All right. So are you talking the... Yeah, I have worked on that one actually. So when I left it with you guys a couple weeks ago, it was just the beginning of a planet painting in space, and I've since added the alien invasion. So let's see if that makes sense. Hey, Marcelo has made the chat. So yeah, I've had fun with this one this week. Kind of set that one there for a minute. You can see how big it is. How's it going, Marcelo? Dinner time? Glad you could pop in or stay or whatnot. So yeah, what kind of some strange news this week with hey Don, how are you? With the video game announcement of the kind of long in development, multiplayer game. Simon Furman made his comments, and Daniel has written his thing. I thought I'd share some just general weird thoughts on how that stuff goes. I was part of at least two, I believe, kind of big company in other parts of the country, or world rather, development of an MMOG or multiplayer game or an interactive, amazing this, that, or the other, with microtransactions and or signups and the whole thing, right? And we would work on them for a while. I think we announced one at Dallas. There was somebody there. They had a whole promo thing they were doing, and those games never came out. I think I have a promo book of one of those efforts with a lot of cool art and everything, but it's not. It never happened. So this situation to me is just another kind of, deals come in and out. Sometimes they work out. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the time frame that the deal is set up, doesn't hit its mark, and then you have to potentially pull the plug. It's all business at the end of the day. But what was strange is how long they've been working on it and transferring it around and whatnot. And I don't know if it was a tactic to keep the game at bay for other efforts or whatnot. Who knows? But stuff like that does happen. It's not so unusual. The sky shouldn't be falling because this game didn't come out, because there's a lot of deals along the way that just don't happen. The partner runs out of money. The partner doesn't live up to their part of the bargain. Their parent company decides to go a different direction. Usually it's a deal point, Marcelo, like they didn't hit a date, or a chunk of money that is owed at a certain interval doesn't come through, and then they're in violation of contract. That's what I mean when this is business. Once you're in violation of contract, or money's owed, under contract signed, it doesn't matter where you are in development. It doesn't matter how much money you've invested. You've already violated the terms, usually, of the licensing deal. And at that point, you either have to pay up, or, maybe lose the deal, or something gets restructured. So it's usually Hasbro, I think, would kind of, just the strength of the contract would dictate that the companies have to pull their own plug, is a weird way to say it. Otherwise, they're going to be on the hook for even more and more money. So when when Dreamwave started having its problems, there was a slowing of the monthly dividends owed to Hasbro that were coming in, and ultimately it got to a point that it didn't matter how many comic books they sold, they wouldn't be able to overcome that money's owed, and that's what ultimately bankrupted aspects of the company. I don't want to say Hasbro bankrupted them, but their own deal, the commitment of what they owed Hasbro. If you don't follow up on your business plan, you're in a world of hurt. You're just spending money for no reason, and the bill comes due. Oh my goodness, this cat is on it today. Come here. So, I hope that answered that question, Marcelo. It's really contract stuff. So, this game was probably written under a certain contract for a certain system, or within a certain number of years it would be released, or in certain markets by a certain time, or certain monies would be owed in certain 6-month or year or 3-month intervals, and something along the way, a date wasn't going to be hit, a launch wasn't going to be hit, a system type wasn't going to be hit, something in the contract language that was just going to make it untenable to continue. And again, it's sad because there's plenty of work done, cool work maybe, in the case of the MMO I was a part of out of a Chinese company, which I think was Tencent at the time. Just goes for naught, just kind of disappears, and that's that, which is a shame. it is a shame because the work behind the projects are, very hard to do too. And it's unfortunate for everybody that works on it. Yeah. Hey, Cringe McCringle, how are you? So, hope everybody's having a good early part of the year. We had Elvis's birthday this past week, which is also one of my oldest friends' birthday, so it's really easy for me to remember. So, with that, I didn't have any particular Transformer stuff beyond what you all thought of the video game news, if that even mattered to you, and why stuff like that might happen. I figured I'd share those little stories. Because stuff does get shut down or canceled all the time, in a way. We saw it with the Genesis book way back in the day. That's why it's got a small print run. Well, it's not Hasbro that's failing. It's the video game partners that are failing. Hasbro doesn't make video games, so they're trying to work with people that say they can do it and are interested in doing it, and it just doesn't seem to keep working out. But it's not so much that Hasbro's putting particular screws to anybody. It's just Transformers is a tough beast. I don't always know that the partners knew exactly what they were signing up for. Sometimes the video game of Transformers, you got to have the robot mode, an intermediate transformation mode, and then the robot mode, and that's a lot of extra work that a Call of Duty might not have. So, hey, Bad Flip, how are you? How's it going? So the video games, they get it seems like it'd be a no-brainer, Transformer video games, but then you get into weird questions about, okay, well, you have a truck chasing a jet, and jets can go way faster, or they can't go that slow, and how do they fight, and how do you make a board where it's fair, and the Transformers present a lot of gameplay challenges as well as those extra builds within the game. Just eats up a lot of the, I'm talking out my butt here a little bit, but just the core of what the game is. They're using a lot of their time and effort and energy up doing those three modes that a normal video game might not have. How's it going, Ninjatron? We are here. Awesome. So it's Transformers is tricky. Then you add things like scale, and then let's overlay some lore on top of that. And where does that fit in? And it seems, again, Transformers is ripe for video games, but it's also a challenge for video games. When you start really poking at it, and so. I feel for any of the video game efforts along the way. Wind Charger, there was a game Hasbro bought that was successful and yet fired everyone that worked on it. I don't know which one that is. But I also don't know what... It depends. There's a lot of different regional things that are happening. But I don't know what game they would have bought. Maybe it was for their app development stuff, or was it during my era? So we got Ken in the house. Ken came to us because of video games. That's where I first met Ken. Did a lot of the movie video game characters that we made into toys. A truck and a van, a panel van, and a jet, and probably a piece of construction equipment. Bunch of good stuff. I'm tired of Transformer games that are basically just existing games with Transformer facials on top of them. Facade, yep. Yeah, and again, that's tough because there could be a lot of cool transforming games and ways to play and really explore that, but it's something that those video game companies aren't going to invest in someone else's IP to bring a new dynamic usually to those type of games. Hasbro should really partner with somebody to really do something dynamically different. A Nintendo-focused Transformers game where it's about play and why you would transform and have a little racing element, so you have to be the vehicle for a while. And, we could never, in the world of games that we were living in when I was working on them, we couldn't do things like that. We couldn't have the fun Nintendo-esque aspects of gaming, which is, I think, what is needed. I'll have to look into that one, Wind Charger. I don't know that one. But so Transformers video games are difficult because are you playing it because you want to be a good hardcore gamer, so it has the right action and story epicness? Are you a fan that really wants to play certain characters and wants the story to be very particular? Sometimes those things can conflict, I can imagine. So it's the video games can be really, really tricky on Transformers. Tell High Moon how hard it was. They seemed the only ones that actually care about said games. Yeah, they were great. We were doing our, kind of lore stuff at the same time. They wanted to make that type of game, and we were able to nest the aligned continuity plans with what they wanted to do and create that to be the origin story and dovetail that a little bit into the novels that were happening at the time. Kind of unfortunately peak cross-platform storytelling. It doesn't quite exist that way anymore. Some of those markets are quite dead. So High Moon was great. They had the right sensibilities about the lore, where to succeed. I had tackled and tried to challenge them to make a transforming world, so the doors transform uniquely, the ramps, the gun stations, let's really make Cybertron a transformative place, and they did that really well. Again, but that was a high budget, AAA game that they had the budget and time to make. And it probably didn't succeed as well as everybody had hoped in the end, as much as it's a great game and great for the Transformer people, but not enough video game people probably got on board to make it super, super successful, unfortunately. But great effort for sure. And they were great guys. Tej and all those guys I worked with. So I don't, High Moon's got nothing to feel bad about, unfortunately, other than just how it went down. But the game itself was awesome. And they definitely helped with our storytelling, letting us, kind of overlay onto what they wanted to do so that we could do our parts of storytelling that really helped, I guess, at the time, explain ourselves. So that's what I got on the video game. Anybody else have anything? All right, sorry. Yeah, Matt's great. I'm hoping that, from what I've heard, that, I'm not a gamer, so I'll say that up front. But I heard they might, unlock that game again so that you can play it and have the ability to get in there and create the characters like you did and play and keep your stats and stuff again, which would be cool. I mean, I think that game is still I'm still playing Wii Paper and Mario Paper and old games. Like, that's a great old game that a lot of people didn't play. That's still a great game. So they should unlock it and bring it back out. Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't follow how Hasbro deals with that stuff anymore. And I pay less and less attention to their digital stuff as well. So if they bought a video game thing, I would have not totally paid attention. So, does anyone else have anything else they particularly want to cover on that topic? Oh yeah, man, let's talk about Masterpiece Rat Trap. Look pretty good. I'm not going to pretend that I know all the rat traps that have come before. Outside of, I was around when we were, when the team was doing the original show, and I certainly could tell you that Rat Trap's accent is somewhat based on George Bosnos, who was the designer at the time that worked on that stuff, who was from Chicago and had that kind of accent, not quite the attitude of Rat Trap, but certainly the accent. So it looked really good. Looked really able to replicate all those mainframe poses and have that look of the show that everybody remembers. And so that's great. Rat Trap is a core character, not the sexiest Transformer, just being a brown mouse rat kind of thing, but long overdue as far as getting a ultimate, whatever segment. I don't get into that stuff anymore. I can't possibly keep up, but the most ultimate version of Rat Trap, the posability and matchy with the CGI is very cool. And again, they've come out with a few of them along the way, but this one looks pretty cool. I can't speak to price right now. I don't really recall, El Kevo, what they're asking for that one. Looking at the G1 Trypticon toy, I feel like he could be retooled into being Armada-like with full tilt activating minicon feature, like a shoulder cannon, firing missiles in a dinosaur mode, robots in underwear. Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to, it seems like, what you're talking about is very an opportunistic toy, something that seems more fun to play with than a base or something. And while that is a cool idea for a certain era, I wonder, they're being very honorific. I think part of the selling point that they have to go into now is this was in a comic, this was in a show, this is the most ultimate version from the movie, this is the most ultimate version from this Unicron trilogy. I don't see them doing too much open kind of let's use these tools in new ways, add some stuff, and without it also being, from Jaxis to Vector Prime. So I wonder if you'll ever see that kind of stuff. While it's a great idea, and certainly in certain eras with certain buying patterns, that would have made sense. But I don't know if they'll go for that these days. Sounds more like something I would have really enjoyed doing. I thought it was fake at first and just thought clip from the show. And that's how good it looks. So yeah, well, that is true. And they're doing a real good job at Takara film, taking that photography where it's really, is that a CG? Like, really clever. Really clever. Yeah, the Super 7 Micronauts announcement. That's cool. Just for the figures and stuff. I love Micronauts, and Microman before that, and Henshin Ninja or whatever, Cyber Ninja and all that stuff that it was in Japan. There's a lot of, for those of us who are hardcore early days Transformer fans, and respect what Yoke-san brought to the Transformers brand, what people don't realize is he designed Biotron. And that's why Biotron has blue legs, a red chest, and a silver head. What does Optimus have? Blue legs, a red chest, and a silver head or face, So there's a lot of awesome pedigree to the Micronauts line, to Takara, to Hasbro, or Mego, and now Hasbro. And now Hasbro's out licensing it to Super 7, and I know the people working on it at Super 7 are very into Micronauts, so I hope that it's a win-win. Hope they're able to do it justice. Micronauts is certainly one of those brands that in the pre-80s, it was a very successful, weird little brand, just like Capsella, just like Erector, just like other Mego things, Star Wars a little bit, and then we got into the big world of cartoons, comics, and toys with Transformers and G.I. Joe and Turtles and somewhat Thundercats and somewhat some of these others, Mask and whatnot, but Micronauts got left in the dust. They never had their cartoon per se. They did have a comic, but it has a lot of really cool Japanese pedigree that I do hope they're able to pull out and bring forward, because that is very cool. To my understanding, Hasbro still owns it. I think they're licensing it from them, and I just hope they're able to do some fun stuff for us 70s guys that still would like to see a little bit of that stuff without it being reissue stuff. I don't need more reissue 70s toys. I would just like cooler versions, just like the Legends Crystar guy, right? Very cool, just weird but cool. Mechanical clear gimmick is really cool. I think it just got announced that they were the first two, they have Baron Karza and Biotron are the only two I've seen so far. Yeah. Micronauts was really cool. And for those of you who don't know, Micronauts. So I'll go through this really quick once. And it's going to be rough, and this is kind of the Cliff Notes version, so those of you who know details, don't slag off on me, all right? So, long time ago, Hasbro makes 12-inch G.I. Joe in the 60s and 70s. At some point in the early 70s, that 12-inch G.I. Joe gets licensed to Takara. They make their version of a kind of a military character. And then they say, let's try something different. And then they mold it in clear and put a chrome head over top of it. And then they make one that you could take the head off and there's like an alien head kind of thing inside of that. Yoke-san designed that 12-inch toy. They took that idea and they said, you know what? Let's shrink this down. Let's make this a much more affordable. Plastic's getting more expensive. Let's make it a smaller figure. So they came up with 3 3/4 inch, in my opinion, right? And they did this articulated. They took the 12-inch G.I. Joe and made it small into the articulated figure. So they put that under Microman in their line, Henshin Ninja also, and there's, different logos and different things, but in general that's what happened. So they took the 12-inch G.I. Joe, shrunk it down. Hasbro saw that and said, oh, that's cool. Eventually it says, we'll do something like that and we'll do G.I. Joe at that scale and that kind of articulation. And that becomes the year 82 Joe. Well, those figures initially came to America through Mego and became Micronauts and have their own little life, right? And then one of the segments of Micronauts in Japan becomes a sub-segment called Diaclone, and they have these transforming things and these little even more micro men that drive those things. Well, then Hasbro sees those and say, hey, well, we liked what you did with the 12-inch stuff and we're using that a little bit. We like these. Let's do these transforming figures. Then we'll lose the Micro Man because we don't need to tell that whole story anyway. Blah, 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 blah. So you wouldn't have Transformers if you didn't have G.I. Joe. You wouldn't have Microman or Micronauts in the same way without the original 12-inch Joe. And what Takara then perverted with it and changed it and made it something completely new and fresh. Then it was Yoke-san. And then how that inspired the 3 3/4 Cobra versus G.I. Joe in the 80s, which I was a big fan of. So you got this whole mishmash of these, what Microman and what became Micronauts and all that kind of 70s craziness is all largely because of Henshin Ninja, a 12-inch figure that wasn't quite costing out after year 2 or 3, and that kind of birthed the idea of a clear-bodied silverhead character. So I love, there needs to be a long form of just that story. And again, I'm kind of loose on some of the details, and I'm maybe misusing some of the logos and names, but sorry, Dylan. Yeah, this is a great book by Jive. It is, I believe at the time, it was the 30th anniversary of Microman. Nice and thick, covers all the 70s stuff, and then gets into the resurgence then in the 90s when they brought it back is those kind of guys with the magnets in their feet, which is, they're still going with that, I believe, today, Microman in that regard. And those of us in the transforming world, they got the cool, cassette tapes that turn into things, and I believe there's some hot noodles that transform into something, and some really, really fun stuff. Yeah, so this is a cool book. I apologize. I don't know the power of my collection sometimes. It even has the old manga in the back. So this is a big brand over the years with Takara, and what they're doing with Diaclone now, the high-end robots, is largely also on that continuum, right? It's not Transformers, it's not G.I. Joe, but it is Micronauts and Microman, and that is, so it's all part of this really cool bonsai tree that is Hasbro and Takara's relationship. So hope you guys found that one interesting. Yeah, they're Reaction Plus figures. So they're not crazy articulated, but it's cool to see them back. Yeah, they went even smaller. The gimmick with Microman is, the hero is the scale of the toy. You can actually hold the hero in your hand, and that's fun toy magic. Oh wow, Don Biz. Yeah, I had all that stuff at one point, all of it, and it was always something we looked to bring over, and could it make sense, and what tooling was available, and just never happened. The cartoon was really weird. I believe there was a cartoon, and if I remember correctly, it was a little too much to translate and make sense because it was wild, but I don't recall why. Didn't they also have various Japanese superheroes released at the same scale of the Microman? Yeah, they did, like Godzilla and some of the Demon Man, I think. Some of those kind of characters in that their version of the 3 3/4 scale, which they did the kicker in. And that's a certain type of Microman, and then there's the smaller 90s version with the magnets in their feet. I don't know how they reference the two scales. But man, we really looked at it over the years, a lot of different ways to bring it over, and either didn't have the right animation or didn't have the right feature, or maybe costing wasn't working. It was just always something. Yeah, brothers, I got a lot of cool books. I'm sorry, that was my thing for a long time. I was a reference hound, so again, I'm sorry. And you know what really is terrible? I used to have a few of these. I think I might give Warden one along the way, because he was also a good reference hound. You gotta respect the game and the players in it. But this book was 2,800 yen. Back in the day, 2,800 yen, which is probably, maybe an $18 book at the time, U.S. current. 74 to 2004. This book covers. So that's really cheap. I don't think you're going to get this book for $28 these days, or anything remotely like that, unfortunately. But that's what it is. If you need the UPC codes, there they are. Good luck, gentlemen. Start your engines. I'm good for at least once a podcast pulling out some obscure toy or book or piece of art that I didn't realize was some sort of, gem of some sort. So I apologize. Mr. Ravensfjord. Hi, Aaron. I was wondering, do you think you would be happy working on Transformers again in its current state? Well, let me tell you about my opinion of designing toys a little bit. I worked at Kenner in the 90s when we had Batman, but Power Rangers was kicking butt. Barbie was kicking butt. Hot Wheels was kicking butt. Nerf was doing all right. XRC was holding its own. Girls' Toys had problems. Some of the other stuff we were doing. I mean, when I started, Waterworld, VR Troopers, The Mask, and something else was coming out, or Congo. So you tell me how those went, right? So that was a couple years of development, and things weren't great. So I kind of learned. I feel like I learned how to design best under pressure, and Daniel talks about this, Protoman talks about this a little bit. When the sky is falling, you can really take some shots, and you can try some things. You can convince people, well, we've never tried this, or why would we do that again? We've never, it's always failed. Let's go a different direction. And you really do have some open space to do some things. Now, I do not think the sky is falling, but in its current state, I believe there's always opportunities to do some stuff, whereas a couple years ago, I was like, they're stuck in movie, cartoon. Things are getting a little, what's happening out there? And sometimes you have to kind of reinvent how you look at the whole ball of wax. I'm not going to give out milk for free, but you could change up entire price points, expand a whole concept beyond price points, something that only lives within one price point, but it's deep, more like a BotBots model type thing. Target new consumers in new places. You could, they don't do that currently. So there's still a lot of different things you could do. That would be a fun challenge right now. A couple years ago, I wouldn't have said that. It felt like movie, cartoon, pump. But now things are so different. You need wilder ideas to stand out. I think you need different things. I probably wouldn't be relying on core lore. I'd be expanding on little lore to make bigger stories out of that, to make toy stories and toyetic play. But not my worry, exactly. Unless Mr. Ravensfjord, you're the head of Hasbro. But so yeah. But again, I often don't think they're looking for old timers to come back and change anything or save something. I'm sure the teams there are doing the best they can with what they got. So we'll see. You never say never. It's good to know that we got some Micronauts fans in here. Are we old, or did someone hand that stuff down to you? I find that it is very hard for me to find Micronaut stuff at all. You really hardly ever see it in package. Certainly the weirder stuff you never see. I collect Shogun Warriors if I can in box, even the little die-cast vehicles and things, and those are very difficult to find. They're not always expensive, but they are difficult to find. We are talking almost 50 years, and that stuff is either in someone's collection or it's been dumped because the dude passed on and everybody just trashed it. I say it humbly like that. So I don't come across a lot of Micronauts stuff, and not enough Shogun Warrior stuff for my tastes either. So I am Aaron Archer. You're at the Toy Armada. You can check me out on Instagram at Aaron Archer Official, or archermonster.com, where you can learn more about me and my past. And that is where you'll find my shop, where I sell my sketchbooks and original art. And I got a lot of published books too from my library. I'm just trying to work through. So if anybody's looking for weird old books, I'm putting stuff up. One thing I wanted to talk about, I don't know if it makes sense to really talk about given everything else we've been talking about, but dun, dun, dun. Looks like my chat isn't keeping up. That's interesting. So hold on a second. Let me see here. Wow, that Micronauts book is that much money. Holy cow, that is crazy. That is crazy. Well, I'm sorry that I taunted any of you with that book. That was never my intention. The interesting thing about this book is because I bought it in a Japanese bookstore. One thing you all should know, if you buy a book in a Japanese bookstore, they will make a cover for it. This is a plastic cover that they have these little burners. They cut it to size, and they make you a plastic sleeve to protect the soft cover books that you buy, if you want that service, which is wild. But really cool. So I'm just seeing some of this stuff here for the first time. Yeah, Devilman, Cutie Honey, yeah. Street Fighters, yep. They had a whole run there where they had kind of did these bodies that you could slip over. I have the Jet Jaguar, which I love, from Godzilla fame. That's his name? Is that his name? Jet Jaguar? The guy that turns really big, but Ninjatron, please check me on that. I've been looking for Brave toys. That is my new thing. I think I want to find a decent... If I'm going to start collecting any toys that I can find and maybe afford that aren't 70s toys, and I don't want G.I. Joe, and I'm not trying to replace my childhood that way. But I like the Brave stuff. That might be one that is kind of fun for me to chase down. Yes, I am the Angry Archer. I was having fun with that. Originally drawn by Marcelo, by the way. Cleaned up a little bit. I'm telling you, just get some popular independent creators on YouTube to make the shows for you, and use some old brands that barely any kid's gonna know. Yeah, maybe. I wish I had minions. I have plenty of ideas, and I'm good at leading creative teams. It's tough for me to do it all independently. Wow, you never had Micronauts in Brazil or the Marvel Comics. Wow. So just kind of a lost, kind of legendary thing. You probably got little peeks and sneaks at that stuff, but didn't really know what it was, huh? That's strange. We would get that. I mean, I feel like Robotech is that way a little bit in America. You know, if you were fortunate in your local distribution that maybe Robotech aired, didn't mean the toys showed up in any meaningful way in your area, and or some of the books and things. So Robotech in America is a very hit and miss different thing. Yeah, Japanese auctions will probably be a good place for that book. Yeah, Dan, they're not doing as much the out of the box products stuff. You know, they're doing a little bit of it. You know, the Star Convoy is interesting, but that's still an echo, right? But that's just the nature of the game. You know, it's not, the business is where it is these days. Ninjatron, too young for Micronauts. Yeah, I was on the edge of it. I had a few, but it was not something that, you know, I was overwhelmed by Star Wars, clearly, at that time. So I had some Micronauts, but they kind of lived as droids and cantina creatures in my world of toy play at the time. They were never Micronauts. VR Troopers, man. Whew. So when I came into Kenner, that all that stuff was coming out that year, and Waterworld, and rough. Wow. 20 years they haven't seen any Micronauts. That's what I'm telling you. It's fun to collect stuff that's very hard to find because you don't have to buy it. You can just look and look. Oh, I haven't found it. You know, I went all across the TFCon and BotCon this year looking for Brave stuff to buy. And there was some ancillary goods, not proper Takara goods. And even that was hard to find. So, you know, anything pre-2000 is somewhat difficult. Yeah, the 2000s revival has been a while. T-Formers 2002. No, I'm going a little bit longer. Yeah, Jet Jaguar. That was a cool one. I definitely got. I think I asked Takara for that one, and they gave me the whole Godzilla. I have all the Godzilla Micromen. Jet Jaguar, and I don't know the villains' names, but then the Godzilla, maybe 2 different Godzillas. I don't know. Very finicky though. One thing I love Takara. Every car company, every toy company, every kind of stereo company, they all have good things they do and weird things they do, right? So the knock on Jaguars, they have bad electronics, and you know, So the thing that drives me a little wild about Takara is when they have friction fit. You know, a post going into a hole, where it's part of the play. They're always a little too weak. You know, they either deform over time because they're not quite big enough, so they just kind of squeeze into a new shape, and then they just don't work anymore. And those Microman suffer from those post fit problems. So I just say that I have, you know, it's not Takara's fault. It's just the nature of their company. Their friction fit post stuff is sometimes not as robust as I would like. So there we go. Yeah, we do need an updated image with the beard. I've been meaning to I've been thinking about that because in my mind, in my head canon, the Angry Archer, for those of you who don't know, the animated character, the Angry Archer, the green guy with the human with the robot left arm, that's based on me. And in my head canon, that character retires and opens up a retro electronic store where you can go buy 20, 50-year-old video games and cameras and video equipment and cords and, you know, lava lamps and all that kind of stuff. Old keyboards with wires, you know, everything with wires. So that is my headcanon as to what happened to that character in Old Detroit. He now has a retro electronics store. So that character should have a beard. So I'll put that out into the universe. Dan, Brave toys are amazing. Yeah. Sadly, jumping in there costs these days. Yeah, I got my Captain Shark, and I love them. And I used to have all of them in some capacity. But and that's why I like them. I really want the black locomotive steam engine so that I can have the giant bazooka on Captain Shark's shoulder. Is really what I want. That's the main goal. I have the Captain Shark. I just need, although I'm missing parts of it now. I don't have his big dial launcher. I haven't found it in a while. Yeah, Star Blazers. We had Thundercats, but they weren't as big in my area. We did have Star Blazers, but that was a morning cartoon. But Star Blazers and Gatchaman were around, or G-Force, but no products, And then sometimes Robotech would come on, and sometimes you'd see these products, but they weren't from the same series of Robotech, because Robotech made no sense to me whatsoever trying to put that together over the years. And I find out why later. But they didn't have the franchise model yet, where you got to have the cartoon and the toys, and this hits then, and then this hits, and this hits, and then you got to redress it for Wave 2 or Series 2 or Season 2, and they hadn't figured all that quite out yet. So some of those shows, don't linger on. Sounds like the Angry Archer probably owns a place that I would frequent. Yeah, I over the years I've had a lot of really cool old electronic equipment. I've gotten rid of it as I've got married and had kids and stuff, but had old cool handled yellow TVs and the GE Foley scrolling clocks and stuff. Nerdy kind of weird design electronics, but yeah, definitely did. Yeah, if it's headcanon to me, then it's canon in general. Sometimes it felt that way, but I would never say it that way. That feels a bit egotistical. But so, did you work on any of the masked Kenner toys? No, I am not that old. I was around when they did Vortech, but I did not work on those items. The closest I got was to put Matt Tracker into the G.I. Joe toy line as a test pilot for G.I. Joe, and then some of the content planning we were hoping to do at that time. Towards the last few years of my time at Hasbro, we were looking at how we could introduce Mask again, but that was about it. Yeah. Yeah, that combiner is a great one, Dan, for sure. And kind of, is largely unknown. When I tell people about Captain Shark, they're like, what? What? And then I show them, and it's an amazing toy. But not well known. That stuff didn't come over here. It's entertainment. You have to watch, without a dub, largely. So it kind of lives in that one of those weird pocket transforming Japanese worlds. It is a big train on his shoulder, but I am just a sucker for overscaled weapons, so that's fine with me. Yeah. No, I don't know. I had a few. I had the main, I think, Trans Am thing from Mask when I was a kid. Now, when I say I was a kid, I would have been 12, 13. We were still buying toys at that time. But I don't remember playing with it much. I thought it was really cool. And I think I did have the helicopter. So in that case of mask, it's strange, but I had the two major vehicles, which is not usually the case for the toy lines I had. I usually had the weirdest tertiary stuff that other people didn't pick up along the first run. So yeah, now that you guys are looking it up, yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I have the G.I. Joe Moon Tracker. Yeah. So one of the things I've done is I have, for those of you paying attention to what I've been doing lately, I have unlocked the Patreon, and that stuff's been going out and is going out. I was going to, one of the things with the Patreon on a few of the tiers is kind of somewhat of a series of boot camps I'm going to do about how to create stuff and how I brainstorm and create characters, and so people can see these reference books, maybe get a list of those, and we kind of talk through different things. And so I was going to go through a little bit of that, but I think we run out of time on that. But like the different reference books that can inspire you and different ways to keep your reference, but I think I'll save that for a different day. But if you're into Patreon, if you're into what I do, and you want to contribute in a different way, consider buying me a cup of coffee every month. I appreciate that. I'm an independent artist, and every bit helps to keep going what I'm trying to do here. So I thank you for that, and everybody that over the year has bought the illustration art. I appreciate that as well, and I continue to make that. So, you can check that out. I was going to ask about that. Looks like I'll have to sign up for a Patreon. Yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to bring to the Patreon a little bit more behind the scenes stuff as well on those opportunities and events. So I'm working it out, trying to make it worth everybody's time for sure. And whenever you feel like that's something that makes sense for you, it's appreciated. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. It's just one of the many ways everybody can try to help everybody out, and not expected that everybody can help everybody out. So it is what it is. And but what I'm trying to do is bring a little bit more depth and maybe even education, if you wanted to learn a little bit deeper. And another thing that I'm working on this channel to do is I've initiated with, I think, about 15, maybe more, different toy creators that I've worked with or known over the years, with a same set of questions, kind of a 15 questions that they will all answer in their own way, their own voice. And through that, you'll get a glimpse at how different people approach the idea of toy design and creativity and their contribution to it. And trying to we talk a lot about the different designers and different things, and it's long since time that beyond just G.I. Joe and Transformers and maybe He-Man, that you learn about the guys behind, Beyblade or Hasbro Pokemon, or some Super 7 product, or the Queen's ship, or from episode 1, and kind of the Nerf guns over the years, and get a different view as to how the toy business is beyond just the action figures, beyond the Hasbro owned brands that are so deep and rich and everybody loves, but even go wider and get a bigger mindset about some of that stuff. So I've initiated that, so that I'm going to do the first couple tests here in the next week or two, and that will be a bigger part of a new segment of videos. We'll have the long form in detail, we'll have these designer breakdowns, we have the lives, and now the designer breakdowns, what I hope to achieve will be the ability then to do long forms with those designers about some of their segments and brands, right? So that is the goal, to kind of take it beyond me, and what you've heard from me. Let's get Eric on here. Let's try to get Joe Kide on here. I'd love to get Yoke-san. but we'll see. We'll see on that one. But inside the actor studio a little bit, but a little more targeted towards toys than esoteric. What's your favorite smell? But in general, that kind of thing, so that you can get a continue long form sense of, oh, these guys all think this way about this thing. I've never thought of that. Or man, these are very varied about what inspires them or their favorite part of toy design, things like that. So I'm looking forward to doing that and having more voices being heard. I think is good. That's good. I appreciate the purchase of the robot art books as well. I just talked to my book designer about the fourth and fifth one, actually. The fourth one will largely be the instruction sheet illustrations for the Unicron trilogy will largely be what that one is. And then the fifth one might be my Shaycon black and white and monster, supplemented with monsters, a book, just to get my personal favorite stuff out there and have it out there in the world. I know it might not be for you guys, but that I want to scratch that itch. So please get Joe. Yeah, I would love to get Joe, especially since I knew Joe before, when he was in college, and now he's a long-term veteran of the toy industry, so he'd be a great guy to definitely talk to. So yeah, I appreciate that, Alkevo. I do a lot of different things. Again, my default is just to create different little story worlds, and this is the latest one I've been doing. Is that showing up? I'm not even sure what it is. It's part of my project I'm working with Forrest on a little bit. So I'm excited about that. This one is definitely finished. It is on the website for sale. Higher end. And then this guy is lingering as well. So that's what's going on with me. It's cool to talk about some Brave stuff and some Microman stuff and whatnot. Good to have Marcelo in here and Ninjatron and Ken. It's been a while. I need to catch up with you, Ken, if you're still around. I feel like I am behind on your story, but hope it's a good one. Cool, Hans. Have a good one. Okay, well, you're gonna get that Megatron one of these days. Well, it's around. It's around till it's not. That's for sure. But I appreciate everybody being here today. I'm trying to see here. So, Mike. Oh, wow. The Freedom 30. How are you? $10 super chat. Hi, Mr. Archer. Not sure if you've seen Spin Master's new DC Retro Collection segment requested by their Target buyer. First assortment is Batman Forever using modified 3D scans of the 95 figures. No, that's funny. That's funny. No, but I believe in the things have cycles, right? And Batman Forever is in that cycle right now. We've had the Michael Keaton Batman resurgent with the Flash and the toys McFarlane made and all of that. And now people are probably getting in, we're probably getting back into lasers and, Batman Forever, which is pretty wild. But I have not seen those. I don't know why a Target buyer would particularly pick those out the gate, but really popular at the time. after, Batman is always evolving, but Batman Forever is a weird one, as is Batman and Robin. But I'll have to check them out if they're based on the old toys somehow. That'd be funny to check out. Rick Sailor, thank you. Yeah, I have fun with Shay Khan. In Church, I'm having so much fun drawing the planets that I'm not trying to worry about the views from the planets, but that is kind of a funny way to think about it. So with that, I'm getting tired. I'm going to go have a snack and go to bed. So thank you, DeFreedom30, for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Again, you can check out my stuff on archermonster.com/shop, and all the new stuff that I come up with is on Aaron Archer Official on Instagram. And if you really want to deep dive into the wild world of Aaron Archer art, check out the Toy Armada Patreon. I appreciate it. Again, I'm an independent artist doing consulting work in a business that is changing all the time. So any way I can string this together and still be creative, I am thankful for it. So, Freedom30, thank you. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all for visiting. Windcharger, Engineered, El Kevo, Hans, Bad Flip, thank you again, Rick. Marcelo was here earlier. Dan, we're talking some old toys. Andrew, how are you? Mr. Ravensfjord. So I appreciate everybody being here. Don Biz. We didn't get Larry here today, I don't think. But I appreciate you, and we'll continue to keep this discussion rolling. I'll talk to you all soon. All right. Thank you.